Hi friends, my name is Zeenath KJ from Wings Training Solutions, and I welcome you all to Strategies to Crack Reading Comprehension video. In this video, we will discuss a list of strategies which are going to help us to crack not only different competitive exams but also company specific aptitude test. So let's get started. Friends, when we talk about RC is all about reading a passage and answering to the questions followed by. Very simple. So that's why it's called as comprehension. Comprehension is all about understanding what you're reading, whether they are directly trying to convey the message to you via passage or indirectly trying to convey the message to you via passage, doesn't matter. But definitely it is about your understanding ability. There is always a passage. The passage consists of two things, which are they? The first one is main idea, and the second one is supporting idea. So, what exactly do we mean by main idea? Friends, whatever this passage is all about, whatever the passage is discussing throughout, is actually called a main idea. In fact, I would like to call it as the title of the passage. Let's say the passage is actually talking about women's empowerment in 2020. Now, women's empowerment in 2020 becomes the main idea of the passage. Whatever they're discussing, it definitely comes under this specific umbrella. Or let's say maybe the passage is actually dealing with child labor. So if the passage is actually talking about child labor, then child labor actually becomes the main idea of the passage. This is all about what is the passage dealing with. What is a supporting idea? I always understood it like this. Friends, main idea is like main heading, and supporting idea becomes like subheading under main heading. Now, for example, women's empowerment in 2020, if this is the main idea, maybe the status of women in 2020, supporting idea one, how women's empowerment can be made better in 2020, supporting idea two. Are women really empowered in 2020? Supporting idea 3. So look at this. All these three sub factors are discussed under the main idea called Women's Empowerment 2020. This is how main idea and supporting idea both go hand in hand. Both are important. In fact, when it comes to RC, okay, as it's all about answering to the questions followed by the passage, you will have a question both on main idea as well as on supporting idea. I must tell you all, my dear friends, trust me, if you read standard newspapers like the Hindu or the Indian Express or Times of India, just for 6 months to 1 year's time, you would not require any strategies to crack RC at all. Because if you are a person who's like a bookworm, you are pretty used to reading, whether you read stories or novels or fictions or non-fiction, doesn't matter. When your brains are pretty used to reading and understanding whatever they're reading, it becomes very easy to crack any RC. If you ask me, the biggest strategy to crack RC is nothing else but by getting into the habit of reading. The moment you are pretty used to reading or habituated to reading, your brains will start working faster than usual. Okay, they can do the scanning on their own, they can identify the answer to every question. It actually works out like that, like how we say in Kannada, harta harta raga, nalta nalta roga. If I had to translate this to English, it's nothing else but what when you keep on doing something over and over again, you tend to become an expert in the same. Okay. Yes, before we could even get into the strategy, I want to let you know practice is the key here, my dear friends. What I would suggest you is please start getting into the habit of reading. Read anything, but make sure you read something every day so that our brains are pretty habituated to the habit of reading. Why RC? In other words, what does RC usually test in a participant? Point number one is to test the precise and thorough understanding of the passage, mostly no direct answer in the passage. See, there was a time, I don't know whether you are able to recall or not, during our school days, we used to do this. We used to have passages even at that point of time too. But we always used to follow this matching rule. Do you know what is this matching rule? Let's say I came up with this XYZ word, and the same XYZ word is used in the form of question. Now, the moment I identify where this XYZ word is used in the passage and I read that sentence, I get the answer. It actually becomes very easy. Okay. However, in competitive exams today, as well as in company specific aptitude tests, you cannot expect the same. Okay. They have to increase the complexity level by making you understand the message, what they want you to understand, not directly but indirectly. RC is usually given to test your understanding ability, my dear friends. That's the first factor. So, what is the second factor? Careful reading, reasoning, logical evaluation needed, that too within the time constraint. In fact, we all know this under the umbrella of verbal ability. RC is one of the most time consuming factors ever you can come across. You have less time, but more to do under RC. You have to read, you have to understand, you have to answer to the questions followed by more. And when the clock is ticking, it actually becomes even more difficult to understand because it's putting you under a lot of pressure. Under time constraint, when you're under a lot of pressure, can you read something, understand, and do the reasoning, logical evaluation, whatever is needed to get you the answer to the questions is another thing what RC usually tests in you. Okay. To be very honest, company specific RCs are much easier compared to any competitive exams like GRE, GMAT, and CAT. Friends, let's get into the types of questions what we usually come across in RC. The first type of question what we come across in RC is actually called main idea question, which is even called central idea, primary idea, or sometimes it could be even called as primary concern. Whichever terminology, as you can see on the screen, you come across in RC, one thing is for sure, a main idea question usually questions your overall understanding of the passage. In simple words, what is this passage all about? That's what the question lies behind the main idea question. However, there is a beautiful technique to identify the main idea of the passage without reading the entire passage. We will talk about it in some time. The second type of question, what we come across in RC, is called specific details question. Friends, we already discussed main idea and supporting idea, right? Under each supporting idea of main idea, usually the author must have discussed a lot of ideas, facts, data, or maybe any kind of statistics, examples, etc. So if there is a question based on any of these, which comes under supporting idea, is actually called a specific details question. The third type of question is called inferences. So what's the meaning of inferences question? Using observation and background in the passage, coming to a logical conclusion. Just to make you understand what is inferences is all about, let me give you an example. Imagine there is a statement in the passage which says, Zeenath and Rishi work for Wings Training Solution. Please pay attention. The statement says, Zeenath and Rishi work for Wings Training Solutions. Maybe there is a question followed by the passage which says, Zeenath and Rishi are colleagues. Is it an yes or no? As Zeenath and Rishi both are working for the same company, for the same organization, yes, Zeenath and Rishi are definitely colleagues to each other. What if I say Zeenath and Rishi are very close friends? Could I come to that conclusion based on the statement? No. The only information which is provided in the statement is Zeenath and Rishi work for the same organization. Nowhere in the statement it says Zeenath and Rishi are close to each other or friends with each other or they know each other very well. There is nothing as such stated. Definitely I cannot come to that conclusion. Now you understand this is what inferences usually stand for. You get my point? Where you read based on the background given in the passage as well as the observation what you have made while reading the passage, you come to a logical conclusion what it could be. Okay, so how do inferences questions look like? You can see here. What does the author imply? What does the author suggest? What does the passage imply? So for all these, you have to actually use your logical ability to come to a conclusion so that you can come up with the correct answer. And I must tell you, inferences questions are definitely a must in CAT, GRE, GMAT. But when it comes to company specific question papers, it's rare. You may get a question on inferences, you may not get a question on inferences. So this is like a 50-50 chance. The fourth type of question what you'll come across in RC is actually called synonyms and antonyms questions, my dear friends. What happens in synonyms and antonyms questions? They will bring out a word which must have been used in the passage, preferably a word which is complex to understand, a word what you must have not been aware of, or maybe a word which is very ambiguous, which can be used in different ways. Okay, any of these is a possibility over here. They will actually ask you either to come up with a similar meaning of the word or to come up with the opposite meaning of the word. If you know the word well in advance, you are extremely good at vocabulary, then you can answer to synonyms and antonyms questions 90% of time without even reading the passage because you're very sure ABC actually means XYZ. So you do not have to actually break your head anymore. However, if the similar meaning or opposite meaning what they're seeking in the question is actually based on the contextual meaning of the word, contextual meaning of the word, then you might have to put a little more effort to identify the answer to the question. What is that? I'm going to tell you when we come to the techniques part. Okay. However, it's very easy to answer, and I should tell you minimum 2, maximum 5 questions on synonyms and antonyms you can expect in RC, especially in CAT, GRE, GMAT. In company specific question papers, I can vouch for this. Minimum 1, maximum 2. So it's very easy to score 2 marks out of 5 or 6 marks in a passage. The next type of question is called attitude of the author. Means what is the attitude you can identify of the author which is working in the background in the passage as he or she is trying to explain something to you. Is it introspective? Introspective means what? This is like keeping a mirror in front of you and asking, hey, what I did, is it wrong? Is it right? Could I have done something better? That's called introspective, where you're questioning yourself. Critical actually means you are in general questioning everything. Is this really right? Is this really necessary? Whatever government has been doing in the past 5 years, do you think it's actually right? You're actually questioning the existence of every idea or fact or statistics for that matter. That is called critical. Last one is suggestion. Maybe the attitude of the author is making suggestions towards something. Yes, the situation is worse. However, we have suggestion number 1, number 2, number 3. So the attitude of the author can be anything. Okay. Again, I would like to make it very clear over here, my dear friends. Usually in CAT, GRE, GMAT, you will have 1 question minimum on attitude of the author. But in company specific question papers, my dear friends, it is a 50-50 chance. You may come across a question on attitude of the author, you may not. Let's go to the last one, assumptions and arguments. So what assumptions and arguments the author who has come up with the passage is actually talking about to support his idea in the passage. So there could be even a question based on that too. Okay, because every passage is not based on the statistics and the data provided. It's actually based on a lot of assumptions and arguments too. Okay, and that's what usually as readers we love to read, right? So these are the kinds of questions what you will usually come across in ours.